Without a doubt, the two greatest teams of the 1980s were the Canterbury Bulldogs and the Parramatta Eels. In their two meetings in 1980, the honours were shared before the Dogs took out their first premiership since 1942. Parramatta in that year did knock Canterbury out of the midweek Tooth Cup at the quarter-final stage, a competition they would go on to win. The roles were reversed, with Canterbury knocking Parramatta out of the 1981 Tooth Cup with a narrow 19-18 win. However, Parramatta would defeat them twice in the normal rounds on their way to their first ever premiership. With Cumberland Oval being rebuilt, Parramatta now moved to Belmore Oval for their home matches. Two tight contests in 1982 resulted in both teams having a win each, Parramatta ending the season as back-to-back premiership winners. In 1983, Canterbury won the two matches played in the regular part of the season, making their head-to-head record stand at 5-5 between the two clubs. However, Parramatta took out both finals meetings between the two clubs. They also took out their third straight premiership. The 1984 season saw the two great clubs meet 4 times. 3 of the times less than 2 points separated them. Canterbury would win 3 of the 4 meetings, including the most important clash, the 1984 Grand Final. Halfway through the decade, the head-to-head score was deadlocked at 8-8. Despite Parra missing Brett Kenny and Peter Sterling, who had played in England through to late May, Parra defeated Canterbury 22-2 in their first meeting of 1985. Canterbury would win 19-4 in their second meeting that year. In the match to play the Dragons in the Grand Final, the Dogs were big 26-0 winners. Canterbury would go on to win the 1985 Grand Final, defeating St George 7-6 on the day. Heading into 1986, Canterbury had won 5 of the last 7 matches between the two clubs. However, it would be Parramatta's year. The Eels would win the National Panasonic Midweek Cup match 16-10 in their first meeting of the year. In the regular season matches, Canterbury would inflict Parramatta's first loss since the opening of Parramatta Stadium, with a 21-12 win. But the Eels would edge out the Dogs 7-6 at Belmore. Parramatta's big 28-6 win over Canterbury would ensure they were the first team into the Grand Final. In a trialless 1986 Grand Final, 2 Mick Cronin penalty goals in his final match for the Eels would give Parramatta a 4-2 Grand Final win. In 1987, Peter Kelly was sent off in their first meeting as Parramatta recorded a 20-8 win at home. Canterbury won 22-6 at Belmore. However, for the first time in a decade, neither team would make the finals, as Canterbury would reach 6th and Parramatta 7th, playing under the old top 5 finals format. In 1988, Canterbury would win their only meeting of the year, recording a big 38-10 win. Canterbury would also win their 4th premiership for the decade with a grand final win over Balmain. In 1989, Canterbury would win their only clash, 16 points to 2, as a decade of great battles between the two great clubs would draw to an end. In total, these two clubs had met each other 28 times in the 80s, with Parramatta winning 14 times and Canterbury 14. They could hardly be split. If the 28 matches was one big long match, it would have ended up Canterbury 381, Parramatta 370. They were indeed the two legendary teams of the 80s.